Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside Out Smile. I'm your host, Dr. Amber Q. I'd like to discuss something quite interesting, and it takes me back to, I think, was it last year or the year before? It must have been the year before. And I was having my daily walk, and I, as usual, was taking photos. I love nature. I love trees. I've mentioned this several times previously. And essentially, I was taking a photo of this interesting tree. And I have spoken about this before, but there is a reason that I'm repeating this, so bear with me. And of course, if you weren't listening to previous episodes, you wouldn't have heard this story anyway. So I was taking a picture of a tree, and this lady asked me why I had taken the photo. And so we started having a chat, and she was so lovely. And it turns out that she was either a sort of fashion editor, I think who's possibly freelance now, but previously she'd worked for Australian Vogue. She has a podcast about sustainability and fashion, and she was at the time writing her book, and I was writing my book at the time as well, so it was a few years ago. And it was a wonderful conversation, actually, and she asked me if I could be in her book, and we connected on LinkedIn, and it was just lovely. We've messaged since then. Her book has been published, and so she's in the world of sustainability in fashion. Now, the thing is, let's just park that at the side. Now, I want to speak about the fact that years ago, and actually Claire and I spoke about this. That lady's name is Claire Press, amazing lady. Now, the thing is that, and it was really weird because at that meeting, I actually mentioned to her that, you know, we do have so many clothes and I have so many clothes. And yet previously people would have the clothes that they would wear, and then they would have one set of nice clothes or their Sunday best. And it was so funny because in the book that has since been published, she actually speaks about the fact that she had been thinking about that. And I referred to the Little House on the Prairie, which is a show that some of you may not have heard of. And the thing is that was about sort of a family, and I think they were in Minnesota, you know, and it's based on a true story. But the thing is that the lady said, Claire had said, that she had been thinking about that. And when I spoke it, she said that she got goosebumps. And I didn't know that at the time. But the thing is, so bringing that back to the present, I have been looking at my clothes and thinking, wow, I've got quite a few. And I've got clothes that I've kind of worn from years ago. And I've gotten rid of a lot of clothes en route. But also, and I'm not even a huge shopper, I don't think. I'm certainly not into trends and things like that. And recently I was looking at all the jackets I have, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I should use an app and sell some of those things. And the other thing that I was thinking of was, my gosh, I wonder how much I've actually spent on all of these clothes. And obviously, as an Asian, I've got sort of Asian outfits, as well as sort of outfits that I've worn to parties and outfits that I would wear sort of for sporting activities, or just that I would wear at work, or just sort of, you know, in my leisure time. But the thing is that, and I do have a few designer items, and I'm not going to mention the names for a particular reason. And the thing is that as I was thinking, how much have I spent? And I bought clothes abroad when I've gone on holiday as well. But I thought to myself, what is the real price of these items, you know, the real price? And I really am referring to a talk that I heard recently with this fantastic political analyst. And I'll put his details in the show notes. But the thing is that when we think of the real price, I mean, I've always known about branding, right? So what is a designer? Essentially, I've spoken to my friends about this. What is a designer? Yes, you are paying for good tailoring, maybe good material, well, hopefully good material, and, you know, just having a garment that's going to last, right? But there is a point where you have that good quality and then you're paying above and beyond that because you're paying for the brand name or the designer name. And what I'd like to say is, what is the real price? What is the real price? Because we have, one of my friends, I was wearing something a little while ago, and one of my friends said, oh, you don't normally wear branded products. And it was just that I like that particular brand, and it was the only shirt that I could find, and it still did have a logo on it. And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't really think that I should be advertising for them, because they should be paying me to advertise rather than me paying them. And so we look at a brand price. We know that some brands are more exclusive than others, and so you're paying for that. But we know that when we're paying the brand, paying for the brand or the brand name, we know, don't we, that it's not cost that much, like whether it's the price of a handbag or, I don't know, a sports bag or an item of clothing. We know that the item of clothing isn't going to cost that amount, and we're paying the rest for the brand. But what does the brand actually do with that markup? Where does that money go? And I heard this really interesting talk where they were basically saying that that money usually goes to influence a political party, and essentially it's a donation to whatever political party that brand is affiliated with or is interested in. And I thought that was really, really interesting, because I've never thought about it in that way. I think I've always just thought, oh, okay, I'm paying this price for this designer, they're pocketing the cash, or their company is. And you don't always think beyond that. Now, the thing is, when we think about, okay, so is the money going to influence politicians? Is it going towards their political campaigns? We know that that item of clothing or that accessory is more than just the item, right? And this talk that I was listening to was essentially saying that, when we look at the situation now, all over the world, in fact, my sister was saying to me the other day, wherever you look, there's injustice. We've got the genocide in Palestine, there's the genocide, I think, happening in Congo, there's something happening in Sudan. I mean, there's just injustice everywhere that we look. And this is because we are funding it. We are funding it through whatever we are purchasing. And so this talk that I was listening to was saying essentially that consumers have a right to know that when we use our hard-earned pounds, dollars, dirhams, reals, yen, whenever we're using, whenever we are spending our money, we should actually understand that that gives us power. And I think we've kind of realized that, because I know certain places have been boycotted, certainly in the Middle East, and branches have been closing down. Now, the point is, if we actually change our mindset in thinking, not that, oh my gosh, I need to buy this brand, I'm so desperate for this brand. And it's fine that the brand wants to keep that price. We're not disputing that. But the point is that essentially when someone makes so I was listening to this talk, and the chap was basically saying that when someone goes to a dinner, and they pay $500 or £500 for the dinner, they're not actually paying that for the dinner. It is a donation towards that political campaign or whatever they're fundraising for, right? Similarly, when you go to, I guess, a charity dinner, same sort of thing. But he was saying essentially that when we are purchasing something, a brand, something, or whatever company or corporate that we're buying it from, we also need to have that mindset that, hey, we're contributing to something. And what is it that we are contributing to? Because the person that donates towards a campaign, we've seen it, right? We've seen it in the UK where they'll say something about donations were made and so was kowtowing to the donor, etc. So in the same way, this talk was essentially saying that we also have influence, and when we are paying for something, when we're buying something, we should know that the money or the funds are going towards something that is in our interests and something that reflects essentially the values that we have. and the fact that we actually have a lot of influence. And I think it's so interesting because when we think about being consumers and we are buying something, I know with certain brands there's a waiting list, and and people feel, don't they, oh my gosh, I've purchased this brand, and so, oh my gosh, I feel so amazing. And I'm not saying that I'm immune to this. The car that I drive, some of the items that I have, and they do confer. And as I said, a lot of it is to do with the quality of something, but there is that prestige that's associated with that. But we see ourselves just as almost, I think sometimes people are just like helpless consumers. When they have that item, they're like, oh, I feel so good because I have this item. I feel so worthwhile. But the point is, what is that item doing? I mean, I certainly know sort of in terms of avoiding companies and corporates that fund genocides. I know about avoiding those, but still it's that change, isn't it? That change in one's mindset, saying, well, wherever I'm spending my money, what are they going to do with it? Because essentially it's an exchange, right? We're exchanging. So we're giving money, we're getting the item, but we're paying so much for that item that where is that going? Where is it going? Where's all that money going? And really, when we are buying something, we're not just buying the item, we're actually buying the item and we are making a donation to whatever that cause is. I think that's an absolutely fascinating way to think about things and to think about the world. And we really need to do this because there's so much injustice. I don't know exactly what's happening in the Congo, but I know it's related to the fact that people are being extorted and taken advantage of in terms of various companies that are building particular items or manufacturing particular items. And so the thing is, we are actually really influential as consumers, but we don't see it in that way. And this is why I love the topic of self-awareness, and I speak about self-awareness all the time because it affects every single facet of our life. And I just, and it will change your life being self-aware, change your relationships, it will just change your professional, your personal life. It's so important. But today, certainly, I'd like to just discuss, just this intersection, as I said, of fashion and life, because however that money is used is going to affect all of us, and it already is. It's funding, a genocide where babies are being killed. I don't want to be a part of that. Do you? Something to think about. Until the next episode, let's all create connection and not just change lives, but save lives.